What's up, peeps? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well in your homeschooled life. Everybody's a part of our COVID classroom now. It's great to talk to you. Haven't seen anybody for a while, and I hope things are beginning to settle down for you. I know this is kind of a crazy time trying to figure out how to do class online. Got a lot of extra time. Maybe you're feeling a little stir crazy. Hope you've been able to get out and get some exercise. I'll tell you what, I've never seen so many people out exercising as a family as I've been seeing the last couple of weeks. Normal times, we're all on our phones. During a lockdown, everybody's outside exercising. Go figure. And who would have thought it'd take a global pandemic to bring the United States together? I want to talk to you and share a little bit about our next unit, which is going to be the Cold War. Cold War, we're going to say this over and over again. The Cold War is a battle for the Earth that starts between 1945 and 1989. It happens in a 5-game series, just like the NBA has a series. NHL has series. There's a 5-game series. The first battle is for Europe after World War II. Who's going to dominate Europe, the Soviets or the United States? The second game is Asia. It's the Civil War in China. It's the Korean Civil War. It's Vietnam. The third battlefield is the Middle East and fighting for the oil and access to the Mediterranean Ocean. The fourth battle is Africa, and simultaneously to that is a battle for Latin America. So the Cold War is a battle for the Earth between the Soviet Union and the United States that lasts between 1945 and 1989, and the Americans chose a policy of containment. Now, here in front of you, you're going to see this photo that you're going to find in the Canvas folder that I have set up, and I'll talk about that at the end. This is one of my amazing pictures, only possible for you here in Sprinkle High. And this photo I drew years ago. And this is a picture that's supposed to take everything you're going to learn in this unit and put it together in one image that kind of orients you to what's going on. So you can see over here we have this really scary octopus. That's what that is, an octopus, and it says USSR. That's the Soviet Union. So after World War II, the Soviets, who are our allies, are now our enemy. They have filled up Eastern Europe because they pushed the Nazis back, and they filled in the lands that the Nazis used to control with their armies, and they have millions of soldiers, and they're not leaving. And their goal is to spread to the western part of Europe, and the Soviet Union wants to spread around the world. And that's because the Soviet Union is built on this idea of communism, and it's a parasitic system. It cannot create life in itself. It lives by eating the healthy tissue, the healthy economies, the healthy people of free societies. In our country, in America, we have a free market system where people can go and create jobs, they can create products, they can bring them to market, they keep the profits, and this is a way of building wealth and peace and prosperity. But in the Soviet Union, it's very top-down, it's very government control. That kills business. Who wants to try to start a business in the middle of that climate? You know, you work in your basement. I'm in my garage right now, and you work hard in your garage for 5-10 years coming up with some new widget, some new Googleizer, and then you finally come out of your garage with this amazing invention, hoping to make a profit, share it with the world, and then boom, Soviets come in, they take it from you. So they kill economic and entrepreneurial activity. And so the only way the Soviet Union can continue to survive and pay its soldiers and buy its weapons and feed its people is if they conquer other nations that are healthy and alive, take their wealth, take their money, enslave their people, and that's how they live. So we want to stop them from spreading. And this happens over, if you look over here in this timeline, it happens between 1945 and 1989. It takes a long time. The Cold War is a long battle. In the United States, we choose to take a policy of containment. Now, containment is the opposite of rolling someone back. In World War II, we rolled back the Nazis. We pushed them out of Western Europe, and the Soviets pushed them out of Eastern Europe. We fought them, we shot guns at them, we dropped bombs on them. But after World War II, there's no appetite for this. And so the American people, they have completely deployed, or I don't know what the word is, but all the soldiers have gone home, they're going back to their lives, and nobody has a stomach for World War III. So the United States is trying to stop the spread of communism, but they don't have any soldiers. So what we decided to do is we're going to work together with everyone we can to try to stop the spread of Soviet communism into Western Europe. And our president, his name is Harry Truman, he's the one who gets this started. And so this is a photograph you can see of the three big powers. This is England, that's Winston Churchill. This is Harry Truman, our president, and this is Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union. And this is the Potsdam Conference. It takes place in Potsdam. That's why they call it the Potsdam Conference. And at this conference, the free Western countries represented by Truman and by Mr. Churchill there, they asked Stalin to leave Eastern Europe, but he refused. And so now Truman has to figure out a way to stop Stalin from spreading into the West. And what he does is he comes up with this plan of, let's contain them. Let's stop them from spreading because we think that their system is fake, it's weak, and if they can't spread, then they're eventually just going to die. And so you can see here on the right side, there's a whole bunch of presidents that are names on these bricks that make up this wall that we build, this containment wall that we build over 50 years. And each president is president for 4 or 8 years, and they do what they can do to stop the spread of communism. And your job as students is to learn the general story, which is, again, it's a battle for the earth between the Soviet Union and the United States between 1945 and 1989, and America adopts a policy of containment. And to contain the Soviet Union, we have to do a whole bunch of other things. And that's what you see right here on the side of the brick. It says Truman Doctrine, Marshall Plan, NATO, Berlin Airlift, Berlin Wall, Korean War, and each president has his own challenges. And each of these little bricks inside the bricks are specific things that happened or things that were done to try to stop the spread of communism. So when you get into the specifics as you're reading your textbook and you're learning about the CIA, the domino theory, and flexible response, and the Suez Crisis, it can just feel overwhelming, like all these facts. But what you want to keep track of is this bigger image, which is all of these little things are just our way of stopping the Soviets. Every move they make, we counter them. And then we try to take preemptive strikes to try to stop them from spreading in Europe, spreading in Asia, spreading in Africa, spreading in the Middle East, spreading in Latin America, so that we can stop the spread of communism. Eventually we win. In 1989, the Soviet Union begins to shake, rattle, and roll, and by 1991, they're gone. The Berlin Wall comes down. All of the Eastern European countries are allowed to have free elections. Surprise, they all vote out the communists. Nobody wants to be communist. And then the Soviet Union itself dissolves. And that happens without really any bloodshed. It's a pretty amazing thing that happened. And nobody would have predicted that. But every single president on this wall gets a piece of the glory. It started with Truman. He made some really good decisions at a very hard time. And the thing about Truman is this guy, he's just like you and me. He started off as a haberdashery owner, which is a fancy way of saying he sold hats. That's what he did. His business failed. He got into politics in Missouri, and then he worked his way up the political system. And then eventually, FDR picked him to be his vice president before FDR died in his 4th term. So FDR is president. He gets reelected in 1944 to a 4th term, and very shortly after that, he dies. Truman's the president who ends World War II, and Truman is the president who sets the path that all the other presidents are going to follow for World War, or for the Cold War. So I'd like to show you some of the specifics just to give you some bearings. So we're going to start with this Truman Doctrine. The Truman Doctrine was when you say doctrine, all it means is the president has said, here's how we're going to go forward. These are the rules. This is the way we're going to relate to other countries. And what Truman realized was that all across Western Europe, everybody was poor, everybody was broke, their economies were crushed, and the communists were making a pitch to the Western world. Hey, if you become communists, we'll give you food, we'll give you clothing, we'll give you other people's property, it's going to be awesome. They were pumping the West with all this fake propaganda about how amazing the Soviet Union was. And these countries like England and France and Italy and Greece and Turkey, they're starting to shake and they look like they're about to fall to the Soviets. And so Truman says, listen, America has been relatively untouched by World War II, and we're going to help anybody who needs it. We're going to give you money. We're going to give you supplies. We're going to give you weapons if you need it. We'll provide you political support. Whatever you need to stop the spread of communism, we are going to give you a blank check. That's the Truman Doctrine. And so one of the ways we do that is something called the Marshall Plan. So you see here it says Marshall Plan right here. And the Marshall Plan was a plan that was created by our Secretary of State, George Marshall. And he said, look, if we don't provide cash to these Western nations quickly, they're going to fall to communism. And so this image here shows you just how much money different countries got. And you can see they got billions and billions of dollars of aid. And we never really got paid back from most of these countries. We just forgave the debts. So remember that when people are hating America and when they're talking about how horrible America is, we basically gave away billions of dollars after we fought World War II, after we fought, and 300,000 people died. And so America is a very generous country. And the Marshall Plan was a key brick in the wall to stop this guy right here Comrade Stalin, the man of steel. Something else we did was we formed something called NATO. And NATO is a really important thing because NATO is an alliance. Think of like the Avengers. They can't beat Thanos by themselves. Only together can they defeat him. And so what we did was we organized all these countries that surround the Soviet Union in Europe. And we said, listen, if you join our team, if you join NATO, if they attack you, they're attacking all of us. So over here you see you got Greece. Greece is this tiny little country. It's going through a civil war. The communists are coming in. They're looking like they could go 50-50 either way. And they join NATO, and that means that if the Soviets mess with Greece, they're messing with America, France, Spain, everybody. And so one of the things about this map is you'll notice the green countries, they surround the Soviet Union like a hand surrounds a fist. The NATO alliance still exists today. It was pretty successful. So we have NATO, we have the Marshall Plan giving away a bunch of money, and then we do something interesting. Germany, after the war, was chopped up into several pieces. The purple right here and the yellow and the green, that's the French, British, and American slice of Germany. Over here, the orange is the Russian slice. But inside the Russian slice is the capital of Germany, which is Berlin. And we get a piece of Berlin just like we get a piece of Germany. The problem is that we can't drive to Berlin from our part of Germany because the Soviets have closed the roads. And the Soviet Union has all the electrical power, water supply, gas lines, all of the vital utilities that basically feed all of Berlin. They run from the east to the west. And Stalin turns them off to try to choke out the Germans, to try to get them to come from the west to the east and to push out the Western allies. And so we began to fly airplanes into Berlin. Every single day, 24/7, 365 for over 400 days, we load up planes with food and coal and toilet paper and everything they could need. And we provide this airlift where you'd see a plane landing and taking off every 3 minutes for over 400 days. It was amazing. And we were able to save 3.5 million Germans, most of which were the children and the wives of former Nazis. So talk about compassion, talk about forgiveness. The American people quickly rescued Western Germany. Then you have the Korean War, which takes place in the 1950s. The Northern Koreans are controlled by the Soviets, and they begin to pour down into South Korea to take it over. So you have the communists in the north, and you have the free Koreans in the south, and the northern Koreans come down into South Korea, and they push all the way down to here, this place called Busan. Then the Americans and the Allies, they counterattack here off the coast. They push the North Koreans all the way up to the Chinese border, but then the Chinese freak out, and they pour in, and they push us back down to about here. So it starts at the 38th parallel, and at the end, this is the border. That's the border today. So even today, Korea is still divided north and south. If you want to know why Chubers-un is ruling over North Korea, why there's this communist dictatorship in North Korea, it's because of the Korean War that happened over 70 years ago. So right away, you can see that America has had to make some hard choices to stop this guy, Mr. Stalin. And what we did was we did the Truman Doctrine, which said we're going to support you. We gave them money through the Marshall Plan. We gave them political support through the NATO alliance. We fed people in Berlin with the Berlin airlift, and we stopped the spread of communism in Korea. All of this went on during Truman's presidency. But again, don't lose the forest for the trees. The Cold War is a battle for the earth between the Soviet Union and the United States that took place between 1945 and 1989. America adopted a policy of containment. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an introduction to this unit, and I want to show you where you're going to find your assignments. This is my Canvas page, and if you go to my Canvas page and you click on the Cold War tile, it will take you to this section which shows you the image I just showed you. It's the octopus image. You can click on it there to see it. And there are 4 separate assignments to download and do. They go along with your textbook. They're interactive notepads. Basically, you download the document, you fill it out with your hand, take a picture, send it to me, or you can type into the document, save it, and send it to me like you've been doing. Do your best with that. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. So I'm not going to post them on Drive anymore. I'm going to post them on Canvas. This is where you find the assignments. And these are going to be due next Monday at midnight. Just like last week's work was due today at midnight, this week will be due next week at midnight. So I hope this helps you. I hope this gives you kind of a sense of what's going on. And I'll be making some more videos and sending them out soon. If you have any questions, let me know. If you like that picture that I gave you, you can print that off, put that on your fridge, turn it into a jacket, whatever you want to do to create some sprinkle swag. That sounds great. And I'll talk to you guys later.